As a leader or an instructor, you can ask two questions that determine your leadership style with the follower. Are you able and are you willing? The two-question leadership model builds upon the large body of leadership theory, including the work of Mouton and Blake and Hersey. The model starts with where the follower is at and where the leader changes their leadership style based on the follower's needs. It is included as part of the risk management because mismatches in leadership style can easily lead to accidents. Start with assessing the follower's needs. The first question asks, does the follower have the ability to perform the task or activity? Ability is defined as having the knowledge, skill, ability, and experience to perform the task or activity. It is demonstrated performance. The second question asks, does the follower have the willingness to perform the task or activity? Willingness is defined as having the confidence, commitment, and motivation to perform the task or activity. It focuses on their socio-emotional capability. The leader needs to listen to the follower or observe actual behavior. In the first scenario, the participant's comments suggest both an inability and hesitancy or lack of willingness. In terms of the model, this leads to a no and no assessment. In this comment, the leader assesses that the participant has concern about their ability to perform, but is willing and excited to go on the backpacking trip. In terms of the model, this leads to a no and yes assessment. In this comment, the leader assesses that the participant should have the ability but is worried about the terrain, a willingness issue. Upon further discussion, the leader may also conclude that there is an ability issue. In terms of the model, this leads to a yes and no assessment. In this participant's comment, the leader assesses that the participant is most likely able and willing to hike 15 miles the first day. In terms of the model, this leads to a yes and yes assessment. The leadership style used should match the follower's needs. The leader's assessment of the two questions results in 4 possible outcomes, which in turn suggest 4 leadership styles. Based on the literature, the leadership style relates task and relationship behavior. Task behavior involves telling people what to do, how to do it, when to do it, where to do it, and who's to do it. Relationship behavior involves giving socio-emotional support, including communicating, facilitating interactions, active listening, and providing feedback. The first leadership style is LS1, directive. It evokes high task and low relationship. The follower does not possess the ability, and there is little need for feedback or communication. The leader instructs how to tie a figure 8 follow-through knot while the student watches. Often the first step in teaching is selling the need for the skill where the instructor explains why the skill is important. It does not normally require feedback. The figure 8 follow-through is used to tie the rope to your harness. The second leadership style is LS2, instructional. The follower does not possess the ability, and there is feedback and other communications between the leader and follower. The student ties the figure 8 follow-through knot, asks for, and receives feedback from the instructor. The third leadership style is LS3, encourage. Since the follower has the ability, there is no need to focus on it. However, there is a need for socio-emotional support or feedback. They may be unmotivated or even insecure. The instructor communicates and provides feedback on why the knot should be used. The fourth leadership style is LS4, observe. The follower has the ability and willingness to perform the task or activity. Let's go climb. The leader observes the follower, periodically assessing their ability and willingness. 3 additional considerations. Leadership styles are presented as categorical variables. Actually, think of them as continuous variables. The management grid from which, in part, the two-question leadership model was derived relates concern for people and concern for production as continuous variables, but presents 5 stereotypical management styles which are categorical. The 5 stereotypical management styles make for an easy discussion. There is a slight change in variables which can affect what they mean. It is a quick jump from concern for people to relationship behavior, and from concern for production to task behavior. Leadership is variable and changes as the leader's assessment of ability and willingness changes. Time-related graphs and Hersey's situational leadership model make this connection. The leader's assessment can change and the leader's style can change systematically, moving from directive to instructional, encourage, and eventually observe. A review of the figure 8 follow-through knot suggests this progression over time. The purpose of assessing the follower and applying the appropriate leadership style is to avoid mismatches. Mismatches can lead to problems, ineffective leadership, and accidents. The following examples are some mismatches. As part of the outing club trip, the trip leader is giving a pre-talk on the shore of the river. The trip leader is using a directive leadership style, lecturing the group of experienced and advanced paddlers on paddling technique and how to negotiate the rapids. Bored, they have run the river numerous times before and know the routes. The leader is using a directive leadership style when an observing leadership style would be more appropriate. It is a canoeing class. A student performs the J-stroke and seeks feedback on what she is doing wrong. The canoe doesn't go in a straight line. The instructor gives socio-emotional support, but doesn't provide specific corrective feedback. He simply notes that the student is doing very well in the course and should keep up the good work. Frustrated, the student is unable to do the J-stroke and seeks feedback. The leader is using a style of encourage when the student really needs an instructional leadership style that explains what the student needs to do to correct her J-stroke. For the students, it is the night before running the river for the first time. One of the students expresses apprehension about running the rapids. The leader responds with, "Let's go over river dynamics once more and recheck the gear." The student is able, but insecure and needs high supported behavior, not additional instruction on skills that are already known. It is the first day of a 10-day backcountry canoe trip in Boundary Waters. The leader notes that we will assign student leaders to make the leader decisions for the day, including navigation. I will be shadowing the group closely just in case. One of the students raises his hand and notes that he doesn't know how to use a map and compass. The leader is providing an observing leadership style, while the student needs a directive or instructional leadership style to learn about maps and compass skills. The two-question leadership model can be used to explain stereotypical leadership styles that are mismatches. The pseudo-4 is a person who thinks they know how to do something when, in fact, they don't. The inexperienced rafter makes it down the river under the guidance and direction of the guide. The rafter goes away thinking that they have the skill to do it themselves. However, when on a trip alone without the raft guide, they find out otherwise. If you are in a leadership position, sometimes it is helpful to remind followers that their success relied on your talents. The military sergeant tells you what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. The sergeant is locked into a directive or instructional leadership style at best. Teachers often fall into this leadership style since they are institutionally in a situation where students are assumed not to have the ability. Since the incompetent delegator doesn't know how to do it himself, He delegates or expects the follower to know how to do it. He uses an observed leadership style when the follower needs an instructional leadership style. There is a mismatch and frustration results. A simple yet effective solution is to bring someone in to assist who knows how to solve the problem. Effective managers use this approach all the time. The leader can and should change leadership styles as the follower learns. From the scenarios used, it is easy to piece together this progression. The instructor demonstrates the J-stroke. Little feedback is required. A student learning the J-stroke attempts to perform the stroke and needs the feedback of an instructional leadership style. It is the day before the river trip. The student has the ability, but is worried. The student needs encouragement. In shadowing, the group on a wilderness trip illustrates an observing leadership style, provided, of course, that the campers have the necessary skills, which they do. In summary, the two-question leadership style is a variable leadership style where the outdoor leader assesses the follower in terms of ability and willingness, and then provides a leadership style that addresses the needs of the follower. To avoid mismatches and to be an effective leader, it is important for the leader to listen carefully and assess the actual ability and willingness of the follower. Good leadership involves a lot of factors. The two-question leadership model provides an excellent foundation and helps to reduce accidents.